Hold up. Before you type a comment, before you swipe away, before you tell yourself you already know this story, ask yourself one thing. What if the version of Tayiana Taylor's divorce we were sold was the edited one? Because if the whispers Tasha K just stirred up have even a hint of truth, this wasn't some quiet, mature split. It wasn't we drifted apart. It wasn't respectful closure. It was silence, thick, deliberate silence, wrapped around something the industry allegedly never wanted spoken out loud. And right now, people behind the scenes are scrambling. Supposed private messages are floating around. Old interviews are being replayed with brand new eyes. Fans are rewatching clips and saying, "Wait, how did we miss that?" But here's the twist that's making the situation feel even stranger. Some insiders are now claiming this story may not revolve around Aaron Pierre the way the public was led to believe. Let that really sit with you. One blogger hinted, if the full story ever surfaces, it won't just change the breakup narrative, it'll rewrite how people see that entire marriage. Another source allegedly put it more bluntly, this was never just about love. This was about protecting an image. And now the question nobody wanted to say out loud is being whispered everywhere. Was this divorce truly about another person, or about a second life that couldn't stay hidden forever? Because if Tasha K is even partially pointing in the right direction, this stops being surface-level celebrity drama. This becomes something else entirely, a slow, controlled detonation. And the explosion part? That might still be coming. From the outside, everything looked polished. Almost suspiciously perfect. Red carpets. Coordinated looks. Smiles that lingered just a second longer than natural. Headlines framing it as unexpected but beautiful. Fans celebrating like they were watching a fairy tale get a second chapter. But now, people who claim they were closer to the situation are saying that from the very beginning, something didn't feel right. And here's the detail most people either forgot or never knew. This relationship didn't rise out of calm waters. It emerged from a storm. Tayiana Taylor was stepping out of one of the most emotionally public chapters of her life. A marriage that dissolved under bright lights and louder speculation. Legal filings. Subtle online shade. Long stretches of silence that somehow said more than any statement ever could. Some insiders have claimed she wasn't in a season of healing, she was in survival mode. Every move she made was being tracked, analyzed, and judged in real time. The pressure wasn't only emotional, it was strategic. And then Aaron Pierre entered the picture. On paper, he looked like the perfect contrast. Calm, polished, seemingly untouched by controversy. The kind of presence that looked like a fresh
Medicine for Melancholy.
But now, people who say they watched
directed
this
by
unfold
Barry
up
Jenkins.
close are suggesting the timing alone should have raised eyebrows. According to ongoing industry chatter, this wasn't a connection that slowly grew behind closed doors. It appeared almost overnight, visible, defined, and already framed for public consumption. That's where, allegedly, the first fractures began. Because while fans saw sparks, some insiders claim they saw misalignment. Tayiana, described by those around her as fiercely driven and deeply protective of her personal space, was in a phase where control meant stability. Her world was tightly structured, carefully curated, and shielded from unnecessary risk. Aaron, meanwhile, was stepping into a level of spotlight that came with expectations he may not have fully understood. And according to people who claim to have witnessed the dynamic early on, that imbalance created quiet tension almost immediately. Friends reportedly had questions. Not loud ones, not public ones, but the kind shared in hushed conversations. Is this too fast? Is this really what she needs right now? Is this happening too fast? Was this really the right moment for something new? Those were the quiet concerns floating around, but they never reached the tabloids. What the world saw instead was the glossy edit. Perfectly angled photos. Carefully chosen interviews. Candid moments that insiders now claim were anything but accidental.
I'm about to
According
know what's up.
online chatter,
Okay,
this
Letterboxd
wasn't
is
a
this.
relationship growing in private. It was unfolding on a stage where optics carried more weight than honesty. And this is where the tone of the story allegedly shifts. Multiple unconfirmed sources have suggested there were unspoken expectations attached from the beginning. Reputation management. Narrative steering. Damage control. Not for just one side but both. Because in Hollywood, raw emotion isn't currency. Stability is. Or at least the appearance of it. People said to be close to Tayiana reportedly noticed a change. Less impulsive. Less open. More measured. More protected. Meanwhile, those around Aaron allegedly observed something different. A mounting sense of pressure. Pressure to show up a certain way. To play a part no one fully explained but everyone seemed to expect. Then suddenly came the quiet. Not a dramatic blow-up. Not a public unraveling. Just space. Distance. Subtle absences that fans slowly started clocking. Missed events. Delayed interactions. Energy that felt. And according to insiders, those gaps weren't random. They were warning lights. Signals that whatever was happening behind the scenes wasn't unfolding the way it was supposed to. That's when Tasha K's commentary began to hit differently. Because when she first implied this split might not be about love fading, most people brushed it aside. Too messy. Too dramatic. Easy to dismiss. But behind closed doors, people in the industry were reportedly revisiting old conversations, old dynamics, old moments that suddenly seemed less innocent. And one question started circulating quietly in certain circles. Was this relationship ever designed to go the distance? Or did it simply have a purpose with an expiration date? That possibility alone reframes everything. Because if the whispers hold any weight, this wasn't a romance that collapsed. It was an arrangement that reached its limit. Trying to maintain a flawless image while carrying unresolved personal battles is a balancing act Hollywood rarely pulls off for long. And according to talk from behind the curtain, both of them may have entered this situation already carrying emotional and professional weight that had nothing to do with each other. And everything to do with survival. Which leads to the moment insiders say everything tilted. Tasha K hinted there was a point where the silence stopped shielding the situation, and started threatening to expose it. And once that line was crossed, there was no graceful exit left. No tidy narrative. No mutual "we wish each other well." The breakup didn't detonate in public. It vanished. And that disappearance is what reportedly made certain people nervous. Because in this industry, when something ends without explanation, it's rarely because there's nothing to explain. It's because saying it out loud would change the entire picture. If even part of these allegations are accurate, then this story was unstable long before the public ever celebrated it. The real fracture didn't happen overnight. It crept in slowly, disguised as miscommunication, missed calls, long pauses no one addressed. On camera, the smiles still showed up. The laughter still landed on cue. But off camera, something had already splintered and those nearby could feel it. What most people didn't realize was that the tension people were sensing wasn't new. It had reportedly been building for months. Sources claiming knowledge of the inner circle say one of the first major warning signs came during a private meeting that was never supposed to leave the room. What started as a routine discussion allegedly escalated quickly. Voices rose. Accusations flew. And one line, spoken in frustration, reportedly shifted everything. "You really think this won't come out?" After that, insiders say trust didn't just weaken, it evaporated. Behind the scenes, loyalties allegedly started to shift. Calls went unanswered. Messages got left on read. People who once defended each other publicly grew quiet. And in this world, silence isn't passive. Strategic. Then came what some describe as the first serious confrontation. It happened away from cameras, late and out of sight. But multiple people have since hinted at the same unsettling detail. Someone left that encounter visibly shaken. Not furious. Not dramatic. Taken. That's when, according to whispers, a few insiders realized this wasn't just emotional fallout or reality show level chaos. This felt heavier. Potentially legal. Potentially career-altering. Soon after, vague posts began appearing online. Cryptic tweets. Deleted stories. Captions that made no sense to outsiders but seemed loaded to those paying attention. Fans began piecing things together before major outlets even reacted. And once the audience senses there's more beneath the surface, the momentum becomes impossible to control. But the real turning point, according to online speculation, came when a supposed file surfaced. At first, most people dismissed it. Screenshots can be faked. Audio can be manipulated. It felt like just another internet stunt. Then talk of a second piece of material surfaced. Then a third. Different corners of the internet. Similar claims. Similar timelines. A pattern people couldn't ignore. That's when the narrative, at least publicly, started to wobble. Moments that once looked like normal relationship tension began to feel staged in hindsight. Old interviews sounded overly polished. Emotional scenes that once felt raw were re-examined through a lens of suspicion. And the question that started echoing across social media was brutal. How long has the public been watching a version of the story that wasn't real? The pressure reportedly intensified fast. Legal teams were said to be consulted quietly. PR strategies allegedly shifted into emergency mode. Statements were drafted, revised, pulled back, and delayed. Suddenly, every word carried risk. Because one poorly phrased sentence could set off consequences that no amount of media training could contain. Then came what many online are calling the ultimate betrayal. According to circulating rumors, someone from the inner circle, someone once trusted deeply, may have shared information that was never meant to resurface. Messages believed to be long deleted. Details people thought were buried. Not necessarily exposing the original issue, but exposing the effort to conceal it. And that distinction changed everything. Fans who had been split down the middle started leaning the same direction. Toward suspicion. Sympathy curdled into doubt. Support shifted into scrutiny. And the internet did what it always does when it senses a cover story unraveling. It dug. Old videos resurfaced. Forgotten clips went viral again. Harmless moments were reinterpreted as warning signs hiding in plain sight. The story didn't just evolve. It rewrote itself in real time, and the people at the center of it seemed to be losing control of the narrative by the hour. Old clips nobody had thought about in years started resurfacing. Interviews people once scrolled past without a second thought were suddenly going viral. Moments that once felt ordinary were now being framed as red flags
American
everyone
Gangster.
somehow missed. The narrative wasn't
I
just
love
shifting, it was rewriting itself in real time. And the two people at the center of it all? They seemed to be losing their grip on the story by the hour. By the time the first official statement finally appeared, the tide had already turned. The fallout wasn't approaching. It had already hit. And as the dust began to settle, one reality felt harder and harder to ignore. This wasn't some unexpected scandal that spiraled out of control. This looked, to many watching, like a situation that had been unstable from the start. Because when secrets stack up, when half-truths pile on top of each other, and when loyalty slowly turns into leverage, the implosion doesn't feel shocking. It feels inevitable. And what most people didn't realize yet was that this might have only been the opening chapter. The second Tasha K's claims started circulating, the internet lit up like a match dropped in dry grass. Within minutes, hashtags were climbing. Feeds were flooding. Every creator, commentator, and gossip page with even a loose connection to the story suddenly had something to say. One tag took off first. Then dozens of variations followed, each more dramatic than the last. People weren't just reacting. They were investigating. Threads stretched for miles with users analyzing timelines, body language, and old quotes like digital detectives building a case. On Instagram, screenshots from Tayiana's past posts reappeared. Smiles were scrutinized. Vacations re-examined. Red carpet moments slowed down and replayed. Look at her expression here, one user wrote under a viral clip. That's not happiness, that's performance. The tone online shifted fast. Confusion turned into suspicion. Suspicion turned into outrage. Every repost added fuel. Even humor pages joined in, turning old glamorous footage into sarcastic edits with captions implying everything had been staged from the start. Then came the celebrity side-eyes. A few public figures shared vague quotes about truth and masks that fans immediately interpreted as subtweets. Others were more direct, hinting that they had seen this kind of situation before. None of it confirmed anything, but it poured gasoline on an already raging fire. At the same time, gossip pages claimed to be receiving anonymous tips. Supposed screenshots. Alleged private messages. None verified, all explosive. Some posts painted Aaron as someone trying to quietly shape the public narrative. Others framed Tayiana as steps ahead, emotionally detached and fully in control. Mainstream outlets soon followed, picking up the online chatter and packaging it into headlines filled with words like betrayal, image, and behind the scenes. Podcasts that had never mentioned either of them before suddenly released emergency episodes breaking down what really happened, each host insisting they had heard something from someone close to the situation. The audience didn't just watch. They chose sides. Some rallied behind Tayiana, calling her guarded demeanor strength, saying she had every right to protect herself after a public emotional storm. Others accused her of being calculated, claiming every affectionate moment had been part of a bigger plan. Meanwhile, Aaron had defenders too, people insisting he was blindsided and outmatched in a world he didn't fully understand. Comment sections turned into battlegrounds. Threads split into factions. Everyone was certain they had cracked the code. And just when it seemed like the frenzy couldn't get louder, a new wave of rumors surfaced online hinting at deeper layers. Posts began suggesting Aaron may have been influenced by certain industry figures, fed selective information, or pulled into narratives he didn't fully control. None of it confirmed. All of it enough to keep the fire burning. What started as breakup gossip was mutating into something bigger. A story about power, perception, and who really pulls the strings behind celebrity relationships. By nightfall, it no longer felt like entertainment. It felt like a digital courtroom with social media acting as judge and jury. Behind the scenes, industry watchers were reportedly paying very close attention. Brand deals. Future projects. Public images. Everything was suddenly under a microscope. Because in Hollywood, perception can shift faster than contracts can adjust. Then came another jolt. Online, alleged messages began circulating that painted a picture of someone trying to manage how certain private details might be presented if they ever surfaced. Again, nothing verified, but the implication alone was enough to send timelines into overdrive. If those messages were real, people argued this wasn't just emotional fallout. It was narrative chess. The backlash intensified. Memes flooded feeds. Fan pages posted side-by-side receipts. Some called it the ultimate publicity game. Others labeled it manipulation. A few went further, suggesting emotional exploitation.
Medicine for Melancholy,
and right at the height of the
directed
chaos,
by Barry
Tayiana
Jenkins.
posted a single image. Her alone, laughing, with a caption about truth eventually finding its way out. That one post detonated across platforms. Was it a message? A warning? A coincidence? No one knew, but everyone had a theory. Reaction videos multiplied. Think pieces followed. The speculation machine kicked into overdrive, stretching the story far beyond the original breakup and into something that felt like an ongoing saga. At that point, the narrative had fully transformed. What once looked like a private split now resembled a public unraveling layered with rumors of strategy, silence, and shifting power. And the most unsettling part? People were convinced this still wasn't the end. The storyline had completely inverted. What once looked like a painful but private breakup was now being framed online as a possible chess match. Layers of strategy, secrecy, and behind-the-scenes maneuvering that few people claimed to have seen coming. Social media wasn't just reacting anymore. It had turned into a full-blown investigation hub, with users digging for old clips, forgotten posts, and supposed leaks that might point to an even bigger truth. And according to the loudest whispers, this saga was nowhere near finished. Anonymous tipsters and gossip pages hinted that more revelations could be waiting in the wings. possibly involving
Do you know
names far
Letterboxd?
bigger than anyone expected.
I'm about to know what's
Fans
up.
weren't casually
Okay,
following
Letterboxd is this.
updates. They were locked in, refreshing feeds like they were tracking a live trial. When the alleged leaks began circulating, timelines transformed into war zones. Twitter threads stretched endlessly. Instagram stories filled with reaction polls. TikTok creators slowed down interviews frame by frame, reading into every blink and breath. Sides formed fast. Team Tayiana versus Team Aaron became the digital showdown nobody could ignore. One viral post declared, "His tears were performance. Her smiles were strategy. This is Hollywood at its coldest." Another user wrote, "You don't fall in love with the person, you fall in love with the image." The tone online wasn't just curious. It was heated, emotional, and relentless. Public figures started adding fuel in their own subtle ways. A well-known singer tweeted a vague line about truth surviving the spotlight, and fans immediately assumed it was commentary on the situation. A reality personality claimed to have seen messages suggesting narrative control behind the scenes. Nothing verified, but enough to send comment sections into meltdown. Reactions split sharply. Some people accused Aaron of trying to manage perception too carefully. Others argued Tayiana had been orchestrating the public image from day one. Each new rumor pushed the divide wider. Entertainment blogs amplified the chaos with dramatic headlines about hidden dynamics and PR pressure. Major outlets cited unnamed sources. Pop culture podcasts dropped emergency episodes. YouTube channels replayed old footage, analyzing tone, posture, and side glances like behavioral experts. Online communities went into overdrive. TikTok reenactments of alleged conversations racked up views. Instagram polls drew millions of votes on who people believed. Reddit threads built elaborate timelines linking past interviews, public appearances, and vague posts into full-blown theories. One popular take suggested Aaron had tried to play the victim narrative, while Tayiana stayed 10 moves ahead, controlling the board. Memes exploded across platforms, turning affectionate red carpet moments into evidence of performance. Even influencers who usually stayed neutral jumped in. One major commentator posted a breakdown of what they called emotional theater, and the comments section immediately turned into a battlefield over whether it was heartbreak or manipulation. While the internet spiraled, industry insiders were rumored to be watching closely. Agents, brand managers, and executives reportedly began reassessing optics. Endorsements, partnerships, and future projects suddenly felt more fragile. In celebrity culture, controversy doesn't just trend, it affects contracts. By the end of the week, this wasn't just another viral topic. It had taken over the cultural conversation. People weren't scrolling past updates. They were living inside them, arguing in comment sections, dissecting screenshots, and waiting for the next twist. And the most intense part? Everyone had the same feeling. This still wasn't the final reveal. With rumors flying, celebrity reactions piling up, and fan communities in full detective mode, the narrative felt like it was racing toward something even bigger. A revelation no one could fully predict but everyone was bracing for. So now the spotlight shifts to you. Do you think Tayiana was simply protecting herself in a brutal spotlight, or playing a deeper game the public is only now starting to question? Was Aaron caught off guard by a world he didn't understand, or was he more aware than people think? This is the kind of story that splits the internet right down the middle. If you were in that position, would you have stayed and tried to ride it out? Or walked away the moment things felt off? Drop your take below, because conversations like this don't stay quiet for long. And if this wave of rumors is any sign, the next development could land when nobody expects it. Stay alert, because if the whispers are true, we haven't seen the biggest twist yet.